invite everyone to coffee. All of our coffee meetings are virtual right now, but here's the thing. If I'm on a webinar or like in a networking event, whether in person or online, I am either screenshotting everybody that's in the Zoom meeting so that I can go look them up later and connect with them on LinkedIn. Or if I'm like in person, I'm trying to get as many cards as I can, and or I will go directly to the event organizer and be like, hey, do you have a contact list? I'm only going to email them once. I just want to invite people to coffee. You can't abuse it. I feel like in my experience, 1 or 2 people in 10 that I invite to coffee or to have like a little 15-minute intro meeting will actually accept it. However, you leave a good impression because you've invited them to coffee. So even if they don't take you up on it, you've left a good impression that you invited them, right? And I guarantee the next time they see you, they're going to be like, oh yeah, man, sorry, we didn't get a chance to get coffee. I owe you an email.
Anna-Vija.
Hi.
How the heck are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Oh my gosh. So we met at the City Club, I believe, a while back.
A long time ago, yes.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about how long ago it was. Let's just, it's been a minute. Yeah.
It's been a minute. Yeah. And man, so glad to have met you. And it's super cool to just watch how you have just gone for it. And,
thank you.
Yeah. Gone for it and being ambitious, worked hard, stretched yourself, and got a bunch of skills and accolades and all those things. And you're just fantastically relational. And so,
thank you.
A lot of
it's life of an entrepreneur, right? Like you're gonna make it. You got to be those things. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. Got to have the grit. So, the great thing is too, is that this is so like authentic, right? Like we haven't really caught up. So I love that kind of like that.
Oh yeah.
That
I haven't talked to you in literal years. Yeah.
It has been. So I love this energy around just catching up here. You're very energetic and you like people. So sales isn't like surprising, but to go into entrepreneurship is a totally different, level. And so what was the
impetus there?
Yes, impetus.
Yeah. So I always say, and this is, so I do leadership coaching with my team now. So I've had the company Piccolo Marketing for 7 years, and I feel really strongly about investing back into the people who work for us. And so we have like an HR talent coach that works with us, and then I do leadership coaching with my team. And one of them asked me recently this really funny question that got me thinking about the origin story, as you just asked, in a funny way. She said something like when you first started a company, how did you know where all the milestones for like growth and development and leveling up would be? And how did you like work your way through and to those things and like just to build the successful company? And I was like, oh, like, that's so cute. Do you think I sat down and mapped all this out 7 years later? And like, she started laughing and I was like, no, that didn't happen at all. Like every milestone and everything that I have hit and accomplished is just, and I said, I know this sounds cheesy, but it's just because I didn't stop.
That's so true.
So it's like, I started the company with an idea, the original goal. And she was laughing when I told her, I was like, the original goal of the company was don't get evicted. Like I had left a full-time career. I worked at a startup that did not work out. And could not find a job that I was like, yep, this is the next thing. And in those 3 months or so, like I went through my savings, I went on unemployment. I was clinically depressed at the time, having panic attacks. And it was like, so when you start to think about, in hindsight, it's easy to think that there was some master 7-year plan and there just wasn't. So for me, it was, how can I work for myself? How can I pay my bills? How can I help people with the skill sets I have? And then from there, it just grew. Too many clients, got to hire help. Too much help, got to get more clients. And then, it kind of grows in that cyclical way over time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the plans that you might have, you're going to find things that are going to make you pivot or troubleshoot or any of those things. But
global pandemic, for example.
That's kind of a big one for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're in Forbes now as one of their writers, and
Yeah.
you're clearly, I would say, a thought leader now around marketing and
Thank you.
startups and those type of things. But when I met you, I don't know that you had some of those skills, and so talk about like your move into the entrepreneurship, and then adding the skills. Like, what was there a particular why behind that? Besides not getting evicted.
Yeah. So I will say that I think that I wanted to work for myself forever. And whether I knew that consciously or not, like I always kind of felt like one day I want to be able to work for myself. I did not imagine what I'm doing today. It wasn't like this clear cut, like I'm going to have a marketing agency and people working and small businesses and all that stuff. I just knew that I liked the idea of being able to do something for myself. It sort of landed on me in a way, as you heard me say, where it was there weren't any jobs calling despite my network, which was like a pretty robust network of people. It was right around the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, like people aren't hiring in that 3 to 4 week period. And then they got to kind of get up and go, like I didn't have a lot of prospects for a regular job. And then coupled with the urgency of my dwindling bank account, coupled with, again, my own mental health, marketing is something that I saw as an opportunity to just take skills that I had organically developed and be able to use them to help other people. And so people in my networking groups were coming to me going, "Hey, can you help me make a brochure?" Or like, "I don't have any idea what I'm doing with social media. Can you just like give me some ideas there?" Or like, "Can you look at my website because I don't think it's that great, but I don't know how to fix it." And so there was some organic development of people asking me about a skill set that I knew that I had, but it had not been a primary focus for me before. It was always sales and, oversight, operations management. And then I was like, well, I actually really enjoy marketing and I really like helping small business owners. So, when we're talking about that thought leadership, it started with me saying, I'm just going to do this to try to pay my bills. And then as I grew, it became, no, this is something that I want to and need to be very good at. And so continuing education all the time, hiring experts and leaders to work with me and learning from them. I know about SEO, but not enough. So let me hire someone that does it all day long and then learn from them as to how to, not just to sell it, but like how it's implemented once we sell it. And so that continuing education is actually funny. We have 3 core company principles. So the first one is happiness. Hands down, I want to make sure our team is happy. And then the second core company principle is we are a teaching company. So everyone is teaching everyone all the time. And so like that's sort of that, it's not just thought leadership, it's just, being able to work well together as a team as well.
Yeah, that's great. This might be related. Like, what gets you excited about what you're offering and what you're doing?
Yeah. It's the teaching aspect of it.
Yeah.
So for me, my passion really is teaching and helping other people find whatever that thing is, their happiness. So sometimes that's helping our clients and helping, I say the best way, like we don't sit down and say, let us teach you marketing 101. Like to some extent, like we're doing the marketing on their behalf, but they're getting a big education in why we do those things as we're doing them. So there's a lot of fulfillment there when a small business owner who has a really great product or service, they're a hardworking entrepreneur. They want to they want to build a life for themselves and their family and, help their community. And they come in and go, I don't know how to market it, so I can't do this thing that I'm really good at. So being able to facilitate that through teaching and education is really fun. But then the team, I mean, our team is amazing and they can come in and be an expert in one thing, but we feel really strongly about the cross education. So for me, that's what really gets me out of bed is like, oh, I get to go do a leadership development, like lunch and learn with my team today. Or I get to go do a webinar. I do free webinars probably like every other month or so, just for everybody in my network we invite. So like the last one I did was on LinkedIn development and why that's really working well in the pandemic right now. I think we had like 40 or 50 people attend. And so it's like, those are the things where I'm like, that's an hour of my time where I got to help so many people. And even if one of them goes and gets a new deal or connection, it's like, yay.
That's great. And you've been so consistent, actually. I was just thinking, man, I'd like to go to the next one. And then it occurred to me that I have seen that a whole while back since the last time that we talked. So
Yeah.
just that consistent effort is so huge, right?
Number one missing thing when people think about marketing and promotion is usually consistency. They're like, oh, I can do that. I can write my own blogs. Yes, of course you can. Are you going to write 2 a month? No. Like, same thing with emails. Like, I can figure out how to put together an email. I'm sure you can. Like, we can teach interns to do it in 45 minutes. I'm sure you could do it. But do you have the time to do it? Yeah, consistency is a challenge.
If you had a package like a Facebook ad that said marketing for ADD or startups.
Hang on, I gotta get my pen. Marketing for startups with ADD. Yeah. Yeah.
So this podcast is all about the highlighting the connections in your story that were like the accelerators in your life and career, both personally and usually, just because I don't know, I'm an entrepreneur and I kind of geek out about that stuff. It's usually been on the professional side, but really it's like the life that we're dreaming of is built through the connections that we make. Curious if what comes to mind when you look at your story and your journey in terms of like connections that were just serendipitous, or it's just like, wow, this was kind of the universe kind of guiding me, God kind of dropped this in my lap. Or it could be something that you just knew, hey, I'm going to take this risk.
Yeah. I think that I'm lucky in that I think, especially with hindsight, it's easy to have that 20/20 vision and say, here are exactly the moments. But in those moments, they don't feel like those moments. In the moment, it just feels like something that you're going through or some person you just met. And like, it doesn't always feel special or notable. It just feels like life. And then you go back later and you're like, whoa, that was a pivotal moment. That was an influential person. So I will say that there are a lot of instances. Unfortunately, there are a lot of negative situations in my life that cumulatively cause me to say, no, I really want to do my own thing. And when I do it, it's going to look like this. Even if that's silly, or even if it doesn't grow as fast as other companies, or even if it's whatever it is, like, even if it's out of the norm, because it really is. Like, what we do and how I run the company is very unusual. But I started working when I was 16 in restaurants as a hostess. So 16-year-old girl in a Santa Fe cattle company sweeping up peanuts, and pretty much like, I will say from 16 to 28, that career. So from hospitality to private club management, and then even into, a little foray into some of the marketing agencies right at the end before I started my own company. There was just this common theme of gender discrimination, age discrimination, sexual harassment and abuse, it at work. I'm not talking about like in my life. I mean, like at work. And so all of those things sort of, again, culminated. They sort of layer on top of each other, and you deal with one incident and you deal with another, and then you go to a different place and you think it's going to be different, and it's not. It's just different people doing the same things in new creative ways. And so, when that happens, again, it pushed me into clinical depression and panic attacks. And so to some extent, I'm a big advocate for mental health. I've had a really, hard struggle with my own mental health, and every day I have to focus on that. And one of the reasons is because I know the long-term effects of a toxic work environment. And so, when you're saying pivotal moments, I have a lot of inspirational moments, people I met that like inspired me to be better, or like, John Boyens, who's a personal friend and mentor of mine, who like, was nice enough to have coffee with me for 30 minutes and change my life by even suggesting that I could be an entrepreneur. Sorry, and giving me a reason to know, how to go about that. That was amazing. Right. But it was one of those things where, I think that all of those inspirational positive moments meant more to me because of the state that I was in over years of a certain kind of treatment. So like if everything that you're doing in the regular job world, like if that had been good for me or even mediocre for me, I don't think I would have been nearly as inspired to go start my own company. I would have been like, yeah, I could probably find a good job somewhere though. I just got to look a little harder. Whereas like when I'm sitting there, at 29 going, okay, in my last career job, I worked my way up to the top of the corporate ladder and it was terrible. I hated it. Like, do I really want to go do that somewhere else? Do I want to start in the middle or at the bottom somewhere and work my way up to the top to hope that it's better? And that's when I started to become aware of some of those things where it's like, you have to trust your gut and make decisions where it's like the universe is going to tell you things, but it's not always like, here, I served it on a little plate with a bow on top. Like sometimes it's just like going, God, that's not the environment I want to be in. Maybe I need to create one that's better.
I love that. I'm glad you mentioned John Boyens. He is a great guy. What a great heart. Very cool that conversation pushed you in that realm. And being a sales trainer makes a lot of sense too. I mean, I feel like, I'm a sales guy, so I don't have the some of that operational like forte that some do. I think you probably had it, but it's just a great foundation to get into entrepreneurship, and I'm glad you made that move. It is a lot of vulnerability, really. It's
yes.
I've got you have a thought around that?
Oh no, I just completely agree with you. Like I'm reading a book right now that my therapist recommended. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And really interesting book. It's not, it's again, just a very quick read and gets right to the heart of the concept of fear. And one of the like truths that it says is like, if you're growing, which is what people want to do, right? People are like, I want to grow and I want better and I want more and I want to be all those things. You're always going to have fear, just period. So like, I read it and then I read it again and I read it like a fourth and fifth time. And I was just like, oh crap. Like, cause no one wants that. Like she even says in the book, she's like, you're not going to like this, but like the way that like the world works, like it's math. If, if doing new things makes you uncomfortable and fearful, and it does, then constant growth, which is what you want, means you're always living with discomfort and fear. And it was like, crap, like that just means that like I'm always going to be in this state. And so she has some other really great, powerful truths in there. And again, I mean, you can read the first 2 chapters of the book and get all this, and it's great. I got it on overdrive from the library. So, but very interesting about, you have to think about that word vulnerability, which is you have to choose to recognize the discomfort, to recognize the fear, and to just be vulnerable and do it anyway. And I love when she's talking about it, because it's just like, yeah, earlier you said, how did you get, and it's like, I just didn't stop. I felt that. And I was like, this sucks, but the only option I have is to move forward. So you just have to be vulnerable and do it. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And it sucks every minute. It is not, it doesn't like, oh yeah, it's easy now. No, it's the thing you learned to do before is easy. And the new thing is now going to be sucky. Like you just got to get used to it. Yeah.
I'm just going to make this up here, but it seems true. So I'm going to say it. You're extremely authentic. And I think that's what
Thank you.
I liked about you when I first met you. But you're very very real, and you're very open and vulnerable, and you know, uh, I think I don't know if there's anything that you'd want to share in this. I have a question that may
Yeah, please.
flow with it, but you talk about mental health in a
Mhm.
very comfortable way, and which is fantastic, because we all have mental health ups and downs, and but we don't all
Yeah.
talk about it. And one thing I just appreciate about you is you're just consistent and you're authentic, and so you talk about that because it's real and it's life,
Yeah.
and honestly, other people need to hear that they're not alone. I think that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
we would do ourselves such a great favor if we learned that we were not um, different, like we were not unique. There's a
Yeah.
level
I
of,
know it sounds weird to say it, but I know what you mean. Like, and I think that,
but you hear a lot about like you're unique,
yeah,
and that's true. But we're more the same than we are unique, right?
correct. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that that's the thing is that um, people sharing the commonality of mental health challenges doesn't mean that you're not a unique individual. It just means that like you experiencing mental health is a commonality. Like everybody has those challenges in some way. And that's the thing is that, you could be like the healthiest mental health, on the planet. But I promise you, there's someone in your family or your friend network or your whatever that like suffers from mental health, and that impacts you,
Mhm.
right? So like, no one's really immune to this. And to your point, I think, hashtag talk about it is one of Mental Health America's primary hashtags, because there's such a stigma around mental health. And we joke like, if you had a problem with your heart, you would just go right to the doctor and like get 17 tests done, and no one would be like, ew, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Right? Like, are you making that up? Like, you should probably just like decide that your heart is fine. What? Like, no, like, so if there's a problem with your brain, it's like, that's the thing, is like, it's an organ like anything else in your body. Like, it's going to have, like, it can have chemical imbalances. It can have, misfires of your synapses or your neural pathways. And like, that to me, I've done a lot of continuing education. I'm not an expert in the field by any means, but I've done a lot of continuing education into mental health, because it just is something that I'm like, this is really impacting my life. And one of the things that I tell, because I do a lot of mentoring with college students, and I do a lot specifically with the Vanderbilt Women in Business program and other Lipscomb and Belmont and all these places. But one of the things that I'm always telling them is like, you don't want to compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 20, and like understanding that like
Good.
we all have these things that happen. And if you can't talk about them, or you look at Instagram and you assume that like that's their life, like, no, it's not. That's the thing that they've chosen to put out, is the snippets of the best moments of their life. So like my social media is public. I don't use social media as like a personal person. I know that sounds funny, but like, I don't we look at it as a tool, or it's part of my brand for my business, right? So everything that I share, I am doing so with the mindset that I am trying to help people, right? It's not like my personal, like I'm just gonna whatever rant about the TV show I watched last night or something like that. So it's not that those moments aren't real, or that the commentary or the captions aren't real. They are, but there's also, I'm not coming to you to be like, here's this terrible thing that happened to me yesterday. And here's a picture of me crying about it. And here's like, so it's not a comprehensive view of my life. And there are a lot of things in my life that I struggle with. So I think as we talk about it and we make it less of a stigma and realize what you were saying, like, we have more in common than we have different. And if we can talk more about those things rather than being divisive and focusing on the differences, be like, no, I struggle with mental health, and I made it a goal of mine to say, how can I learn about this and overcome it? I hate when students and people I hate when people say, I'll be happy when anything, fill in the blank. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I get that raise. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I get a house or when I get a car or when I get a blah, 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 blah. Can't you be happy now? Like, what's keeping you from being happy now? Because you're limiting your mental health to where it's like, I've chosen right now to be unhappy until some other life event that I have no control over decides to give that to me. Yeah. And so it's definitely I was on the board at Mental Health America for 3 years and we did their volunteer, marketing efforts. And so big fan of mental health. I have a therapist. I talk to people about it all the time. I'm like, I'm an open book and I'll tell you about the things I've struggled with in a private environment. But like when we talk about it, it normalizes. And it's shocking how many people go, oh, that happened to me too. Yeah, I bet it did, you know?
I don't know if you want to, that's really helpful. I don't know if you want to talk about it. I mean, you're at Lipscomb coaching female entrepreneurs or
At Vandy, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious. I have history of kind of a religious upbringing, and so some of my close relationships and otherwise would, want to say that for mental health, you just need to pray some more, basically. Use scripture, religious texts, and
yeah.
That I feel like is one of the biggest challenges to get folks to talk about it, is because the stigma is really religiously, I feel like, created. And then the feeling is that, you can just, fix it with the religious focus. And so it's kind of it's a big obstacle to get people to get the help that they need when they have that mindset. I don't know if you've been able to talk with people and get them over that hump.
Yeah. So again, I'm not an expert in the field. I just can only speak to my experiences, but I'll say that for me growing up, religion was like a part of my life, but not like we didn't go to church every Sunday. It was sort of like we tried it on an Easter Sunday and we're like, so for me, I unfortunately had a lot of negative experiences with religion growing up. Now, interestingly, what I will say is, again, I can't specifically speak to mental health and religion or mental health and something you just said, which is like fixing it. One of the things that I think is interesting is that with everything that I've done towards my own mental health and to learn about it and understand, how I think treatment, I don't think that I've fixed it. And I think that that's an interesting concept, is that religion completely aside, like, again, I can't really speak to that, but what I'll say is, I think that when you look at something, you go, that's broken and it needs to be fixed. It seems like there's a definitive beginning and end to that process to me, right? So like my watch is broken. I need to take it into watchmakers. Where do you, that's a terrible example because I'm like, what is like a clocksmith? I don't even know what that looks like anymore. Yeah, like what does that even anyway? So you take it into somebody to fix it. They definitively do or do not fix it, and then they hand it back to you, and it's now a working watch again, right? In my experience, my brain doesn't work like that, because there's not a singular thing that happened that broke it, and then I talk about or medicate or pray or get a lobotomy. Like there's all kinds of, right, there's treatment plans, but there's no thing that independently fixes the influence of that one event. And now I'm fixed. Because crap happens every damn day, man. Like every day things are happening that are like creating new issues and influencing those chemicals and influencing those neural pathways. And so for me, I have to think about it as a treatment plan where I have to, when I say like I struggle with mental health or I have to manage my mental health, it is a maintenance plan. It's like cleaning your house. It's never going to be clean and then it just stays clean. Like it has to constantly be tidied and wiped down and laundry and do laundry again. Like that's how I think about my mental health, is like every day I have to be focusing in some way on it, forming healthy habits, talking about things that are difficult. Yesterday, I got a call in the morning that woke me up where my mom got rushed to the ER with cardiac complications after a second COVID vaccine. And so they were like, oh no. And here's the thing, like it's not like the vaccine caused it. She has a family history of heart, whatever. But like, those are the moments where it's like, you're not fixed from mental health. And then you get a call like that and your day is fine. I had to do all kinds of things yesterday to maintenance my own mental health around that situation.
Yep.
And even today, I'm sitting here with the phone in front of me because like, I want to have it accessible in case my dad or my mom call, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that that's the interesting thing, is religion completely aside, I don't consider mental health to be something that you can just definitively fix. Like, it's something you have to manage and maintenance and understand your whole life.
Yeah, spot on. One of the things I try to help illustrate is that, you got, I mean, let's just talk entrepreneurship or life in general. So much more complex than playing a game, right? A sports game. And yet you have these athletes that have multiple coaches, right? You got a golf coach.
Like 15.
He's got several. He's got a mental coach. He's got a swing coach. He's got a putting. I mean, other things too, I'm sure. A nutritionist, whatever, right? And,
what I wouldn't give for a nutritionist / cook, by the way.
What's that?
I said, what I wouldn't give for a nutritionist / like personal chef, like on my, like one day when I'm like rich enough, maybe, like it's the first thing on my list. Like, I do not like having to stop to cook things. Just like, please, somebody. Yeah.
Yep. But, ask any of these professional golfers if they went to a coach and they got fixed. Never.
I'm done now.
Yeah.
You know who had a coach? Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
The whole time Michael Jordan was playing, how many coaches did Michael Jordan have? Did he ever like turn to a coach and be like, I think I got this? Like, no, I'm good now. I don't need any more coaching. Like, no, it just, yeah, I'm definitely with you. I have lots of coaches and mentors, and it is in different areas, and it's like, the more, the better. Like, I'll just adopt them. I'm like, you're my mentor now. You have no choice. You are now mentoring me. Yeah.
And they can help you in different ways because they're different experiences or so good, Anna-Vija. So I'm curious, apart from somebody offering you a ton of money to, for your company or for your talent, what else would you do?
So it's really funny. I'm about to start doing it. I've had a few of those offers. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm actually really excited. So in 7 years, I've grown Piccolo. I have had a couple offers to purchase the company. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, this is like, love it. Love being like in this role every day. Love being able to grow the team. Like, we're only 7 years in. Like, I'm still enjoying it and going to be here for a long time. But in my spare time, with the Vanderbilt Women in Business that I mentioned earlier. So I approached them in, I guess it was the end of 2019, top of 2020, and asked them if they would consider bringing me in as like an ongoing, like permanent mentor for the first time in their organization's history, in order to provide some continuity to the mentorship. And they elected to do so. So they made me their executive in residence, and I signed up for a 2-year term with them. And one of the things that I asked them to help me with or allow me to beta test is an internship program where they would get applicants from from the students for internships. And I would go out into the world and, ask all my connections and find companies that were looking to host interns for really like high value experiences. So not, hey, go fetch my coffee or file my files, but like, we have a project, we have a learning experience, we have a something. And so we've done that for 2 semesters now. It was a little challenging with COVID. It was a little touch and go, but we got it to work. So at this point, we've placed like 30 interns, and we got 70 plus applications for the summer program. And we're like, whoa. So, which is wonderful. So the women in business, and I'm just so impressed with their team, they have been doing a phenomenal job of sort of like self-managing that. And they created all their own systems and processes. It's wonderful. One of the things that I wanted to do is prove the concept, and we've proven that it's something that both sides of the coin want. And so separately from that, I am starting a company where we are going to find students that want internships, help train and certify them, because teaching is my passion, and say, here are the things that you're going to school, but you're not getting this like icing on the cake. So like how to write professional emails, how to network, how to build an email list or manage a CRM, like some of those things that are just like, you don't learn until you're in the professional world and you're like, crap, I really wish that I would have learned this before. Right. Real specific things on resume building or portfolio development specific to your industry. And then on the host side of things, we're going to get them to sign up to host and give them some certification around how to host a valuable internship. So, here are the systems and tools you need to not just ask them to go fetch your coffee, but to really give them some valuable work experience. And then we're going to match them together. So there'll be a continuing education component for the interns, like online courses, and we'll do mentorships and all kinds of things. And then for the companies, we've got this opportunity for them to sort of get a fresh perspective and then build up their next generation of workforce and, provide these experiences. So when you're saying like, hey, what's your individual skill set and how would that play out if you didn't have Piccolo, like, I'm not waiting. I'm just like, I want to do that so badly. I'm just going to start doing it. So we're going to start taking applications in the next probably month or so for the fall semester. So we are going at it full force. We're really excited.
Do they have to be in college right now? Where does this person have to be in their career journey to benefit?
So very interesting question. Our guess is, they are going to be paid internships. We're going to have a range of pay and allow them to do an interview process with the company so that they can gain that experience. It seems to make the most sense for people that are probably like sophomores to seniors in college. However, we're trying to be careful about, we don't want to gatekeep the experience. So what we're probably going to do is just to make sure that it is manageable. For the fall semester, we're trying to do a little bit of testing now to see how many we can place, because we don't want to be like, it's open-ended and just be overwhelmed. So there'll be some parameters around that. However, I would say that, college students are probably going to be the best fit for the student side of things. And then companies, it's really interesting. We've actually seen a mix of entrepreneurs and nonprofits, right? So people who are like, I would love to have intern help, and I have the bandwidth to like give to that person. Some medium-sized companies that have not yet created their own internship program. But any company that's been like, yeah, like I'd love to have an intern, but I don't have the time or the bandwidth to figure out how to do that. Great. Here's an exact solution and someone who matches what you need. So that's kind of what we look for in this company. Yeah.
Women only?
Nope.
Okay. You know what? I thought of something else I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips that have worked for you in terms of making connections? I think authenticity, we've talked about that, and that's it. Or if you want to add anything to that, but like with the idea that, you really, you had that conversation around networking and teaching your interns how to network and those type of things. Just what would you share from your experience that's worked for you?
Yeah. So, and that's interesting. I actually got invited to write for Forbes because John Boyens was writing for Forbes and he referred me to Forbes. Yeah. So, when I do my networking, like webinar, my presentation on networking, one of the things that is like a little snippet that I think would work here is invite everyone to coffee. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. And here's where I have to qualify. I know that a lot of people aren't doing things in person anymore, which I totally get. We've been completely remote for over a year. And so, everything, all of our coffee meetings are virtual right now. But here's the thing. If I'm on a webinar or like in a networking event, whether in person or online, I am either screenshotting everybody that's in the Zoom meeting so that I can go look them up later and connect with them on LinkedIn. Or if I'm like in person, I'm trying to get as many cards as I can, or I will go directly to the event organizer and be like, hey, do you have a contact list? I'm only going to email them once. I just want to invite people to coffee. You can't abuse it, or obviously you get a bad reputation. But I feel like in my experience, 1 or 2 people in 10 that I invite to coffee or to have like a little 15-minute intro meeting will actually accept it. So people get overwhelmed. I can't invite that many people to coffee. I don't have that kind of time. Most people don't have that kind of time either, and they're not going to take you up on it. However, you leave a good impression because you've invited them to coffee. So even if they don't take you up on it, you've left a good impression that you invited them, right? And I guarantee the next time they see you, they're going to be like, oh yeah, man, sorry, we didn't get a chance to get coffee. I owe you an email. It's a weird psychological trick. Now, the other thing is the people you do have coffee with, don't commit an hour to drive all the way across town and like meet them. Like do something fast and easy, even a 15 or 20-minute intro phone call. And this is the hardest part of it. Don't sell. For the love of God, stop trying to sell the second you meet someone. Like ask them about them and what their business is. And rather than trying to sell them something, try to think of a way that you can provide value that isn't a sale. So can you introduce them to someone? Can you invite them to a networking event that you're part of that they would work well in? Like, is there a webinar you're going to that they would be interested in? Like, come up with some other value add to show them that you're an authentic human being that just wants to help people. And inevitably, and again, this is the psychology, people want to return those favors. So if you start asking them about them and what they do and how they do it and why they love it, they're going to want to ask you those questions back, and you don't have to force sell them. And then it feels, not only it is a lot more authentic, but like people have a better impression of you than if you just run up and go like, hey, let me quote your insurance. Like nobody likes that guy, right? So I always say like invite everybody to coffee, and you'll be very surprised, because I feel like we were talking about this earlier. I feel like the universe moves things around to be like, oh, like if you're opening that door, I'll put the right person in it.
It's amazing, right?
Yep.
Great to have you, Anna-Vija.
Thank you. Good to be here. Yeah.
And excited to see what this next chapter has for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully some fun stuff.